Thank you. I am Souad Aden Osman. I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Dialogue on Africa, and I also serve as the Secretariat of the High-Level Panel on Illicit Financial Flows. This forum, the ECOSOC Annual Citizens Forum 2023, is an important one as illicit financial flows and asset recovery agenda has reached a point where the issues and even the definition we had of this issue is being looked at global level. It has attracted attention. We have gathered traction for this challenge, and it's being dealt with at global level. It's being dealt with at regional level in the context of the African Union, and it's being dealt with by almost all our governments. There is a lot happening at national level, and there is also a lot of civil society organizations involved in the response at every level, at global, at regional, and at country level. It's therefore very important to engage this kind of platform, the ECOSOC Annual Citizens Forum, to ensure that the issues and the challenges of implementing our own solutions are actually taken up by our own citizens, and they know where to get information from, the right information, what are the course of action that they should be aware of, that are already actors that are more active are engaged in, and what needs to be done. And so it's an important conversation at global level. As you may know, the OECD has been very active in these international taxing rules reforms. The United Nations, with their United Nations FACTI panel, has been also attending to it. We have been ahead of the curve at the African Union. The 2015 Special Declaration of the Assembly was very important, set the tone for the whole world. There is a lot of work to be done, and there is a lot that is happening now that we needed to make sure that a voice of Africa, structured, coordinated, coherent set of actions and pronouncements happen now. The Coalition for Dialogue on Africa was set up in 2009 as a special initiative of the African Union, African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, and UN Economic Commission for Africa, 4 regional institutions that are acting on almost all the aspects of the development, socioeconomic development of our countries. And the effort to sustain the ownership and the leadership that the African Union has demonstrated since 2012, when the ministers commissioned the establishment of a panel to study the magnitude and the mechanisms the phenomenon actually manifests itself, had come to a point where almost everything we do is actually done under the auspices of the African Union, by the African Union organs, by the African Union Commission departments. So that involvement and the work in the context of the African Union is very important, because at the end of the day, at global level, we advocate for these matters, but we have to bring home these standards, and we must make sure that the policies at national level to address these issues are actually attended to. The Common African Position on Asset Recovery, CAPAR, was actually developed under the guidance and with the orientation of the high-level panel. It was actually a response to one of the main arguments that the receiving countries, we're talking about assets to be recovered and returned. Recovered is that we have to take them from those we feel didn't do the right thing. And most of the time, let's talk about the financial assets, they're frozen. Frozen assets in foreign banks, we need to know what to do because the litigation can go on for a decade and a half. During that time, the intermediaries, the banks that are, as far as we're concerned, corporates the same way, keep these funds. So the idea is to say we need to know how, even in the process of recovering and demanding their return to the continent, what we are supposed to do, because these are legal processes that can take time. So the Common African Position on Asset Recovery was very important because the main aspects of what happens in those two processes of recovery and return were actually properly defined under two pillars and a set of policy recommendations and cross-cutting issues that we need to look at, because whatever we do in this field must be put back and contextualized in a historical historical perspective as well. So that is the reason why we have linked the fight illicit financial flows and the formulation of the Common African Position on Asset Recovery and Return. So this is a very important, it's important for us to link the two. We have been making sure that anything that has to do with the ways we lose resources or we don't get value for our own resources are actually packaged. So illicit financial flows from the African perspective deals with the commercial IFFs, the criminal IFF, and the corrupt IFF. And the citizens, African citizens, have a lot to do when it comes to demanding from their governments that the right thing is done. Because at the end of the day, it is now a systemic issue, a global systemic issue. There's a host of intermediaries. We talked about the banks, the lawyers are others, the prosecutors, the auditors. So it's not pocket money, it's a lot of money that is being earned, transferred, used with all sorts of methods that we are going to struggle with, because unless the intentions of these people change, which they want, making profit, if it is easy, it's made easy for them. And the main thing that has to happen is that a citizen who knows what's happening can absolutely help in making sure that we stem and curb these illicit flows.